Welcome to the Global Intelligence Weekly Wrap-Up for the week ending September 27, 2024. Your exclusive source for cutting-edge analysis on the world's most pressing intelligence, national security, and counterterrorism developments. In this episode, Neil Bisson, retired intelligence officer with over 20 years of expertise, dives into this week's major events, including the recent raid by Israeli forces on Al Jazeera's office in Ramallah and the broader implications for press freedom. Plus, we'll explore the latest developments in espionage, foreign influence, and emerging global threats that are shaping the geopolitical landscape. Don't miss an episode. Subscribe on Spotify, YouTube, or Apple Podcasts, or ask your smart speaker to play Global Intelligence Weekly Wrap-Up. If today's briefing sparks new insights, drop a comment, leave us a rating, and share it with those in your network who need to stay ahead of the curve. Love the show? Support us at buymeacoffee.com/GIKN or head to buzzsprout.com/2336717/support. Your contributions help power the expert analysis and exclusive content you depend on to stay informed in this fast-moving world of intelligence. Every bit of support counts. Now, get ready for the latest key intelligence updates you won't hear anywhere else.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Global Intelligence Weekly Wrap-Up. In our first story, we start off by covering an important appointment in the world of intelligence. Pakistan's military has just named Lieutenant General Asim Malik as the new head of the ISI, the country's top intelligence agency. This news, reported by Al Jazeera, has significant implications for not just for Pakistan, but for the region as a whole. So who exactly is Lieutenant General Asim Malik, and why does this matter? To start, the ISI, or the Directorate of Inter-Service Intelligence, is Pakistan's equivalent to the CIA or MI6, and it plays a central role in both national security and foreign policy. Asim Malik is stepping into a high-stakes role, which is often seen as the second most powerful position in the country's military after the Chief of Staff. Before becoming the ISI Chief, Malik served as the Adjutant General, where he was responsible for overseeing legal, disciplinary, and welfare issues within the military. This background sets him up as a meticulous leader, but the new role in ISI will throw him into an arena that requires more than just discipline. Intelligence work often involves dirty tricks and covert operations that are, by their nature, controversial. Malik's lack of direct intelligence experience has been noted. While he has commanded infantry divisions in conflict areas like Balochistan and South Waziristan, known for violence and insurgency, the transition to an intelligence leadership role might be a challenge. For context, Malik replaces General Nadeem Anjum, whose tenure was significant political unrest in Pakistan, particularly during the outset of the former Prime Minister Imran Khan in 2022. Anjum's extension as an ISI chief also coincided with growing political tensions and a crackdown on Khan's Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf party. Critiques argued that ISI was used to suppress Khan's political movement, though the military has consistently rejected claims of political interference. The ISI has long been accused of being a state within a state in Pakistan, and its power goes beyond intelligence collection. From meddling in politics to foreign policy, the ISI is central to Pakistan's security infrastructure. Malik's predecessor, Anjum, was no stranger to controversy, and the question now is whether Malik will maintain the status quo or take the ISI in a new direction. The article features some interesting perspectives from former military colleagues. One retired General Naeem Khalid Lohi describes Malik as a highly respected but quiet leader, noting his effective work as the adjunct general, especially when it came to resolving issues like pensions for veterans. But with the ISI's controversial reputation, Malik will need to adapt quickly. There's also insight from another unnamed retired general who points out that Malik's appointment reflects the trust placed in him by Pakistan's current Army Chief, General Asim Munir. According to the source, Malik's career trajectory suggests he would have otherwise been given a corps command, but with his retirement approaching in less than 2 years, the ISI post may be his last major role. However, the real test for Malik will come in balancing his background in enforcing discipline with the inherently murky world of intelligence, which often requires actions that go beyond controversial military norms. Lieutenant General Asim Malik's appointment as the new ISI chief is a major event in intelligence. As the ISI navigates its role in Pakistan's national security and regional affairs, Malik's leadership will be critical in shaping the future of the agency. Will he continue with policies and procedures, or will he shift under his command? Time will tell. In our next story, we change our focus to a key decision from Ukraine that highlights the intersection of technology and national security. We're talking about the Ukrainian government's ban on the use of Telegram's messaging app for government officials and military personnel due to security concerns. This story is particularly significant as it comes amid the ongoing conflict with Russia and growing worries about the exploitation of digital communication platforms. On the surface, this might seem like a simple decision to safeguard sensitive information. However, the implications run deeper when we consider the full context. Ukraine's National Security and Defense Council banned Telegram on official devices after receiving critical intelligence from Ukraine's GUR military agency. According to this intelligence, Russian special services have found ways to spy on Telegram users, including intercepting messages and accessing personal data, even messages that were supposedly deleted. From an intelligence perspective, this is a major concern. Telegram is not just any app. It's one of the most widely used communication tools in both Ukraine and Russia. Since the Russian invasion of 2022, it has served as a vital channel for spreading information. However, this makes it a potential goldmine for espionage, especially for Russian intelligence seeking access to Ukrainian military and government communications. The app was founded by Russian-born Pavel Durov, who himself has had a complicated relationship with Russia. After refusing to comply with demands from Russian authorities to shut down opposition groups, Durov fled the country in 2014. While this might seem like a positive signal about his stance on privacy, recent controversies have raised red flags. Durov was recently arrested in France for alleged involvement in crimes related to child pornography, drug trafficking, and fraudulent transactions taking place on Telegram. This situation has further clouded the public perception of Telegram's security and trustworthiness. The Ukrainian government's ban on Telegram reflects how the digital landscape is increasingly becoming a battleground in modern warfare. As we've seen with Russia's cyber attacks and disinformation campaigns, technology is a powerful weapon, as powerful as conventional military forces. When an app like Telegram, which millions of people use for daily communication, can be compromised, it presents a significant risk, not just for individuals, but for national security. The head of Ukraine's GUR military intelligence was instrumental in this decision. He emphasized that this ban is not about limiting freedom of speech, but instead a necessary step to protect national security. According to Budinov, Russian intelligence has the capability to intercept messages, recover deleted communications, and access personal data, all of which can be used for espionage or even disinformation. Telegram, of course, denies these claims. In a statement, the company argued that it has never provided any data to any government, including Russia, and that deleted messages are impossible to recover. They also suggested that any leaks likely came from compromised devices infected with malware, rather than any vulnerabilities in their platform. While Telegram's defense is worth noting, the decision by Ukraine shows a growing mistrust of major digital platforms in times of conflict. This issue isn't unique to Telegram. It speaks to the larger question of how governments can protect sensitive information in an area where so much communication happens through potentially insecure platforms. Ukraine's decision to ban Telegram on official devices is a clear move to safeguard sensitive data from foreign adversaries, in this case, Russian intelligence agencies. As technology continues to advance, governments will need to stay proactive in identifying and mitigating risk posed by digital platforms. The case of Telegram is just one example of the ongoing challenge of balancing convenience and security in the digital age. Moving forward, we can expect to see more governments scrutinizing their popular apps and platforms, particularly those with ties to adversarial nations. For Ukraine, this is just one of the many steps that they are taking to protect themselves from cyber attacks and intelligence exploitation amid their war with Russia. Our next story brings us back to North America, where we're focusing on a significant revelation regarding foreign influence in Canada's domestic institutions. A senior security official from the House of Commons has reported that in the past 5 years, several potential employees were denied positions due to concerns of foreign interference. In fact, in just the last 6 months, 2 individuals were denied jobs in Parliament for these exact reasons. Let's break down what this means and why it's a major issue for Canada. This revelation comes from Patrick McDonald, the Sergeant-at-Arms and Corporate Security Officer for the House of Commons. McDonald disclosed that he had personally rejected a handful of job applicants in recent years due to their suspected links to foreign states. The timing could be more significant, as Canada grapples with the ongoing issue of foreign interference, especially from countries like China and Russia. What's particularly concerning is the rapid increase in the use of what's called resolution of doubt interviews. These are secondary interviews conducted when an initial security screening flags concerns about a prospective employee's loyalty to Canada. McDonald revealed that in 2019, there were just 10 such interviews, but in 2023, the number skyrocketed to 128. This sharp rise is a clear indication that concerns about foreign influence in Canadian political institutions are on the rise. The Hogue inquiry, led by Quebec appeal judge Marie-Josée Hogue, is currently investigating the extent of foreign interference in Canada's democratic processes. In both the 2019 and 2021 elections, there were documented efforts by foreign states to meddle in Canada's political affairs. While Hogue's inquiry concluded that these attempts did not compromise the integrity of the election's results, it did highlight that a handful of candidates appeared willing to accept help from foreign states, particularly China. What we're seeing now, with the denial of the House of Commons jobs, is another layer of concern. Staffers on Parliament Hill hold influential positions within the offices of MPs and senators. They manage schedules, attend meetings, and handle sensitive information. This makes them prime targets for foreign actors looking to gain influence within Canada's political circles. McDonald explained that all parliamentarian staff undergo security screenings by both the RCMP and CSIS before they're hired. The RCMP checks their criminal history, while CSIS investigates their loyalty to Canada. In many cases, these investigations involve looking at public available information or open source intelligence, which can be crucial in flagging concerns. If questions remain, that's when the secondary resolution of doubt interviews come into play. One of the key challenges identified in these investigations is assessing candidates who have spent significant time abroad or who are new to Canada. These individuals may have ties to foreign states that raise concerns for Canadian security services. As McDonald pointed out, the stakes are high. The House of Commons must ensure that its networks and institutions are protected from foreign actors seeking to influence decision makers or access sensitive information. While no one wants to see unfair treatment of these individuals based on their background, the rise in foreign interference means that Canada must be vigilant when it comes to protecting its political institutions. So what does this all mean for Canada? The revelation that individuals are being denied jobs in Parliament over foreign influence concerns reminds us that the constant threat is being posed by foreign interference in democratic institutions. As we've seen, staffers on Parliament Hill hold key roles and can provide access to sensitive information and political influence. Ensuring the loyalty and integrity of these staffers is critical to maintaining the security of Canada's democracy. As the Hogue inquiry continues, we can expect more revelations about the scope of foreign interference in Canada's political system. With concerns already raised about the 2019 and 2021 elections, an increase in scrutiny on potential foreign influence within Parliament, it's clear that Canada must remain vigilant in protecting its institutions from hostile foreign actors. Sticking with the issue of foreign interference in Canada, our next story will look at the startling revelations from the ongoing public inquiry into foreign interference in Canadian elections. This week, the foreign interference inquiry has put the spotlight on Asim Ismail, the Liberal Party of Canada's national director. His testimony has raised major questions about how political parties handle foreign interference. Under intense questioning, Ismail admitted that he didn't read the full 92-page report from the National Security and Intelligence Committee of Parliamentarians, or NSCOP. This report, tabled in June, revealed China's involvement in influencing the 2019 race for Don Valley North. According to the report, the Chinese consulate in Toronto paid for buses to transport hundreds of Chinese international students to vote for Liberal candidate Han Dong. It's alleged that the consulate also told these students they could lose their visas if they didn't cast their vote for Dong. What's more troubling is that despite having secret-level clearance, Ismail claimed to be unaware of several key details. He testified that he wasn't aware of the buses being funded by the Chinese consulate, nor did he know that some of the students involved lived outside the riding, a direct violation of party rules. This revelation is significant because it suggests a breakdown in communication or a failure to act on crucial intelligence that was provided by CSIS. While Prime Minister Trudeau was beef about this foreign interference, Dong was still allowed to run in both 2019 and 2021 elections. This leads to the question, how effectively are political parties safeguarding Canada's democracy from external manipulation? The inquiry, now in its second phase, is focusing on the government's ability to combat foreign interference. This week's hearings has cast a light on how political parties protect or fail to protect themselves from foreign actors. This comes from initial findings from the inquiry indicating that while foreign interference did not alter overall election processes, it did influence key ridings. The fact that such foreign influence could affect something as critical as an election is alarming. We know from CSIS and the RCMP that electoral interference is an ongoing threat, and in this case further illustrates just how vulnerable Canada is to these operations. Even more salacious information came out of this week's testimony from former Conservative leader Erin O'Toole when he recounted an unsettling encounter with a woman who may have been an agent of Chinese influence. Erin O'Toole provided testimony regarding a young Chinese woman who had approached him repeatedly at public events displaying flirtatious and unprofessional behavior. This woman, whose identity remains unknown, persistently sought to obtain O'Toole's phone number. Although the encounter occurred between 2018 and 2019, it wasn't until after O'Toole became Conservative Party leader that he began to suspect the incident may have been a deliberate attempt to influence his political position. From an intelligence perspective, this situation raises some serious concerns. The use of individuals to cultivate relationships with politicians or high-ranking officials is a known tactic in foreign interference operations, often referred to as a honey trap or a honey pot. The woman's persistence and behavior seem consistent with espionage efforts aimed at gathering compromising information or influencing key decision makers. This incident takes place against the backdrop of China's broader efforts to interfere with Canadian politics, an issue central to the ongoing Foreign Interference Commission's inquiry. These events aren't isolated. O'Toole's experience highlight a long history of foreign actors using charms, seduction, and deception to target political figures. Take, for example, the case of Bob Deshert, another Conservative MP who was involved in a scandal after exchanging romantic messages with Xi Rong, a correspondent of China's news agency Xinhua, an organization often suspected of acting as a front for Chinese intelligence activities. Similarly, in the US, the 2020 case of Christine Fang, a Chinese spy who established romantic relationships with US politicians, shows that these operations transcend borders, aiming to infiltrate high levels of government across Western democracies. The recurring pattern of using personal relationships for potential espionage purposes is a significant threat to our national security. Erin O'Toole's testimony highlights just how easy it is for foreign agents to slip through the cracks in Canada's political system. O'Toole himself noted that in the fast-paced environment of political campaigns, it's difficult for staff to scrutinize every interaction. He lamented how foreign actors could easily infiltrate Canadian elections, posing a significant threat to democratic integrity. From the perspective of a retired intelligence officer, I can attest to the sophistication of such operations. These subtle yet consistent engagements by foreign nationals are not just random. They are calculated, strategic efforts to gather intelligence or sway outcomes. The flirtatious and unprofessional approach taken by this woman fits a classic profile that is often seen time and again in intelligence circles. This testimony from Erin O'Toole is another reminder of the very real threats that foreign interference poses to Canadian politics. While this particular case may not have led to any direct consequences, it signals a broader vulnerability in our system. As China, Russia, and other foreign states continue to ramp up their efforts to influence Western democracies, it's critical that we remain aware of the many ways that foreign states use operatives to compromise politicians and national security. We move from threat of honey traps to the world of cyberspace as we change our focus to a disturbing report that involves Chinese state-sponsored hackers infiltrating U.S. internet service providers. According to reporting, Chinese state-sponsored hackers are allegedly stealing sensitive data and establishing persistent access. This story comes from a recent report published by the Wall Street Journal, and it sheds light on China's ongoing cyber operations. According to the report, Chinese Advanced Persistent Threat, or APT group Salt Typhoon, has been found hacking into U.S. internet service providers. Their goal? Gaining access to sensitive information that can be exploited for intelligence purposes or potentially future cyber attacks. The group, also tracked by Microsoft under names like Ghost Emperor and Famous Sparrow, has a history of exploiting vulnerabilities, particularly in Microsoft Exchange servers, which they did in 2021. What's really alarming is that Salt Typhoon's latest actions follow a broader pattern of Chinese cyber operations targeting key infrastructure. The sophistication of these attacks point to a high level of skill and intent. Chinese hackers often exploit zero-day vulnerabilities, which are weaknesses in software that are unknown to vendors and unpatched by users. Once inside these networks, they can establish persistence, meaning that they can remain hidden and continue extracting valuable data undetected for long periods. From a national security perspective, these types of breaches represent a clear and present danger. Internet service providers form the backbone of communications, meaning hackers could have access to everything from sensitive government communications to critical infrastructure details. If you compromise an ISP, you can compromise an entire nation's flow of information, which has potentially devastating consequences. This is not an isolated event. We've seen similar behavior from other Chinese APT groups such as Volt Typhoon. Just earlier this year, the FBI issued a warning after Volt Typhoon was found targeting critical infrastructure including energy and transportation systems. These breaches are serious because they are part of the longer-term strategy by China to embed itself within foreign infrastructure. They gain persistent access, collect sensitive intelligence, and position themselves for potential future disruptions. Salt Typhoon is believed to be employing tactics similar to Volt Typhoon, like exploiting vulnerabilities in core network devices from companies like Fortinet, Cisco, and Citrix. In the past, U.S. agencies have had to take drastic action, including dismantling botnets controlled by Chinese hackers. However, as Salt Typhoon's actions show, these groups are relentless and adaptive. Microsoft have been tracking Salt Typhoon's activities in their use of unpatched vulnerabilities in Microsoft Exchange servers since 2021. Additionally, cybersecurity experts from Black Lotus Labs observed that Chinese Volt Typhoon exploiting weaknesses in Versa Director, another platform used by ISPs. This points to a troubling trend of China targeting critical infrastructure. Cisco Systems, whose routers route much of the world's internet traffic, denied any involvement in these particular hacks. However, given that Salt Typhoon and other APT groups frequently target network devices, Western governments should remain vigilant about other equipment potentially being compromised. This latest report is a clear reminder that cyber espionage is a growing threat, and China's focus on U.S. ISPs demonstrates the increasing sophistication of their techniques. While the U.S. has taken steps to counter these operations, it's critical that both public and private sector organizations remain proactive in securing their networks. As we move forward, expect to see more of these cyber incursions and the potential for broader geopolitical implications. For our final story, we travel to Israel, where we're discussing a bold move by the Israeli military that has some serious implications for press freedom and the ongoing conflict in the region. Last weekend, Israeli soldiers stormed the offices of Al Jazeera in Ramallah, located in occupied West Bank. This office has long been a critical hub for the network, especially after Israel shut down its Jerusalem operations earlier this year. Israeli troops raided the office early Sunday morning, delivering a military order to close it for 45 days. Al Jazeera staff, including its bureau chief, Walid Omari, were live on air as soldiers entered the building, giving them just 10 minutes to gather their personal belongings and equipment. Cameras were rolling as the bureau chief asked for an explanation. None was given, except for what was written in the military order. Israel's reasoning? They claimed the office was being used to incite terror and support terrorist activities. However, Al Jazeera, in a strong statement, categorically rejected these accusations, labeling the raid and seizure of the equipment as an attack on press freedom and journalism itself. They described this as a criminal act. This raid comes amid heightened tensions, with Israel justifying the shutdown due to their ongoing war against Hamas in Gaza. Israeli officials have long criticized Al Jazeera, accusing the Qatari-based network of an anti-Israeli bias and even acting as a mouthpiece for Hamas. Since the Gaza offensive began, several Al Jazeera journalists have been killed or injured in the front lines, adding to the intensity of the situation. What's also concerning is the escalating response from the Israeli military against press outlets. Following the raid, CNN reported that the building housing Al Jazeera's office sustained significant damage, with the entrance completely sealed off and 3 CCTV cameras confiscated. The Foreign Press Association is already calling for Israel to reconsider its decision, warning that it threatens press freedoms in the region. So what does this mean for the bigger picture? This event highlights the delicate balance between national security and press freedom in conflict zones. The raid on Al Jazeera's Ramallah office isn't just a move against a media outlet. It's a message about controlling the narrative during a time of war. For Israel, it's about security. Al Jazeera and its allies, it's a direct attack on principles of journalism. The key takeaway here is that this isn't an isolated incident. We've seen similar actions taken in conflict zones where governments, particularly in highly volatile regions, aim to restrict media access in the name of national security. How this develops and whether the press can maintain a foothold in the region remains to be seen. Well, that's going to do it for this week. Please remember all links to open source stories are in the show notes. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and please let me know what you think about this week's stories, insights, and analysis. I would like to give a shout out to a recent supporter at Buzzsprout website. Right Path Canada, your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you so much. Until next week, stay curious, stay informed, and stay safe.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Global Intelligence Weekly Wrap-Up, bringing you expert analysis on the intelligence issues shaping our world takes dedication, and we hope today's insights left you informed and inspired. If you enjoyed this episode, your support can help us keep delivering the in-depth intelligence updates you rely on. Whether it's a one-time tip or ongoing contribution, head over to buymeacoffee.com/GIKN or visit buzzsprout.com/2336717/support. Your backing fuels the expert perspectives that keep you ahead of the curve. Before you go, don't forget to like, comment, and share this podcast with your network. Every bit of engagement helps us grow and reach more listeners like you who care about real-world intelligence. Make sure you're subscribed on Spotify, YouTube, or Apple Podcasts, or just ask your smart speaker to play Global Intelligence Weekly Wrap-Up. Stay informed and ahead of the stories that matter. We appreciate your continued support, and we'll be back next week with more critical insights. See you then.